Hi, Lucas.
Hey Lucas, Ryder's next to me. We're gonna read the last 2 chapters of Blubber for you. What?
This is kind of anticlimactic.
I agree.
Because you're giving everybody in the classroom memes, so yeah, you're kind of missing out by.
Oh, bummer. Yeah, well, we miss you. Sorry you weren't here on the last day. So we're gonna read chapter 18, and it's called Never Mind Spitting. We spent all day Saturday cleaning the house, just like my mother promised. My job was dusting everything in sight. Dad scrubbed the bathrooms and kitchen while Mom changed the beds and went to the supermarket. Kenny got to vacuum. Great Maudie watered the plants. I didn't start my math homework until Sunday night. I'm not supposed to wait till the last minute, but somehow I always do. It took me over an hour to finish, and then I gave the paper to Dad to check. He said it was perfect. I was really pleased. Talking to Mom on Friday night helped me feel a little better about going back to school on Monday. But even so, I wasn't taking any chances. I wouldn't wear a skirt for anything. Pants were much safer. That way Wendy wouldn't force me to show the boys my underwear. I called for Tracy and showed her, if they try to make me kiss Bruce, I'll spit on them. That's what he said to do to Blubber if she touched his lips. Never mind spitting, Tracy said. If they try anything at all, you should bite them. I should? Yes, I once read a news article about this woman who bit off another woman's finger. The human bite is very dangerous.
It has 70 pounds of force.
That's true. I'll remember that, I said. When we got to our bus stop, a group of kids was coming over the hill, heading in our direction. When I saw who they were, my heart started thumping. What's going on? I asked. I don't know, Tracy answered, but we better find out. Wendy, Caroline, Donna, and Linda were first, with Robbie, Michael, and Erwin right behind them. They looked like an army. What are you doing here? Tracy asked as we got to our corner. You get the bus at Hidden Valley. Not today, Wendy said, and she charged into me, knocking my things to the ground. Before I had a chance to pick everything up, Wendy grabbed my math book and she and the others started playing catch with it. Cut that out, I yelled, trying to get my book back, but they threw it over my head. I couldn't stop them from doing whatever they wanted. Give it to her, Tracy hollered, and she bopped Robbie with her notebook. Just as Erwin caught my book, I kicked him as hard as I could, figuring he would drop it. But instead, he kicked me back and tossed my book into the street. I won't cry, I thought. I'll never let them see me cry. Never. Our bus came along then, flashing its red stoplights. I ran into the street to get my math book. Then Tracy helped me put my lunch back together because somebody had pulled it all apart. As I climbed onto the bus, the driver yelled at me for taking too long. When I finally sat down next to Tracy, I saw that Wendy and Linda were sharing a seat. Caroline sat alone behind them. Later, when Mrs. Minish collected our math homework, I couldn't find mine. But I did it, Mrs. Minish, I said. You can ask my father. He checked it for me. Maybe you left it at home, Miss Minish didn't seem to care. I said, no, I'm positive I put it inside my book. Maybe it fell out, Mrs. Minish told me. No, I said, suddenly sure of what happened to it. It didn't just fall out. Well, Jill, since this is the first time you've ever forgotten your homework, I won't count it against you. But I didn't forget it, I said. I told you I didn't forget it. All right, Jill, don't worry about it. If you can find it, you can hand it in tomorrow. I'll do it over, I said. You can if you want to, but it really isn't necessary. Now let's all take out our math books and open to chapter 3. Wendy turned around and smiled. I wanted to kill her. When we got to the girls' room, Wendy blocked the toilets and wouldn't let me use one until I said, I'm Baby Brenner. I'm not toilet trained yet. That's why I stink. I shook my head at her. You have to say it, Wendy told me. No way, I said. I won't. Then I'll have to check your diapers myself. I thought about making a run for it, but Wendy had Caroline, Donna, and Linda on her side, and I wasn't sure I had anyone in mind. So I said, you touch me and you're dead. Grab her, Caroline, Wendy said. Grab her arms and I'll pull her smelly diapers off. Caroline is bigger than me and stronger too. As she came toward me, I shouted, you always do what Wendy says? Don't you have a mind of your own? I have a mind of my own. Then why don't you use it for once? Wendy doesn't even like you anymore, so why should you follow her orders? Shut up, Brenner, Wendy said. Don't listen to her, Caroline. She does too like me, Caroline said. Then how come she's always hanging around Linda? Didn't you see them this morning on the bus? I'll bet she's not even your partner for the class trip. Caroline looked at Wendy. We're partners, aren't we? Before Wendy could answer, Linda said, I'm Wendy's partner. She hung an arm over Wendy's shoulder. Caroline bit her lip, turned, and walked out of the girls' room. Donna followed her. Don't you ever answer for me again, Wendy told Linda. Linda looked as if Wendy had slapped her in the face. I didn't wait around to see what Wendy would do next. I opened the door to a toilet and locked myself in the booth. I was really shaking. Before I came out, I checked underneath to make sure that there were no feet in sight. That way, I knew I was safe. Nobody called me Baby Brenner during lunch. Donna and Caroline moved their desks together, and Wendy invited Lori to eat with her. Linda sat alone at her desk the way she used to. I took up my sandwich and looked at it, thinking how much better it would taste if I had someone to talk to. I hate to eat all by myself. I glanced around the room, wondering, should I or shouldn't I? Oh, I might as well try, I finally decided. You sometimes have to make the first move, or else you might wind up like Linda, letting other people decide what's going to happen to you. I stood up and walked over to Rochelle's desk and said, "Hey Rochelle, you want to eat with me?" Rochelle didn't answer right away, and for a second I was sorry I asked her. But then she finished chewing, swallowed whatever was in her mouth, and said, "Why not?" I moved my desk next to hers. She had a peanut butter sandwich too. I think this is the last chapter.
Hey, why a peanut? Why a P?
PB?
Why just a PB?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe some people don't like jelly.
Jelly.
Or maybe it's assumed that there's jelly. All right, chapter 19, last one. Put your money where your mouth is. Tuesday morning on the way to school, Erwin called me some of his best names. I said, "The same to you," and everybody laughed, but not at me. That afternoon, we had our Thanksgiving program. The sixth graders put on a boring play about the Pilgrims. And I wish our school could do a play like the one in Harriet the Spy, where everybody pretends to be a different vegetable. I would like to play the onion. I'd roll around the floor the way Harriet did in the book. I wonder if there really are schools where they do that kind of thing. When we got back to class, Mrs. Minish stayed out in the hall talking to the teacher in the next room. So Robbie Winters had plenty of time to stick pins through his fingers and do his zombie act. When he shoved his hands in my face, I said, "What's so great about that? Anybody can do it." "Oh yeah?" "Yeah, including you, including me." "Put your money where your mouth is, Brenner." "How much?" I asked him. "A quarter." "You're on, give me some pins." Well, a quarter was a lot of money in 1974, a lot more money than it is today. Robbie took the pins out of his fingers and handed them to me. I stuck one through the top layer of skin of every finger, being careful not to flinch as I did. Then I stood up, held my hands out straight, and walked around making zombie noises. "Exactly what is going on here?" Mrs. Minish stood in the doorway, watching me. "Jill, you're out of your seat." "Yes, Mrs. Minish." I hurried back to my desk, hid my hands underneath it, and pulled the pins out of my fingers. Robbie passed me a quarter. By lunchtime, it was easy to tell that Wendy and Lori were going to be best friends, and so were Donna and Caroline. Some people are always changing best friends. I'm glad me and Tracy aren't that way. Still, it's nice to have a regular friend in your class, even if it's not a best friend.
But isn't Tracy the main character's best friend?
It is, but she's not in the same class as Jill. But that's still her best friend. They live in the same neighborhood. I ate lunch with Rochelle again. She's kind of quiet, but I get the feeling that a lot goes on inside her head. So later, when it was time to go home, we all ran for our lockers, and I said, "Hey, Rochelle, you want to be my partner for the class trip?" She put on her jacket, closed her locker door, and said, "Why not?" I didn't bite my nails once that afternoon or night, and when Dad tucked me into bed, I said, "You know something? There's still a whole month to go before Christmas." "So?" he asked. "So, is our deal still on?" I held out my hands and wiggled my fingers. The dad made a deal with her that if she didn't bite her nails, he would buy her the stamps for her stamp collection that she wanted. So now that she's not feeling as nervous or anxious, she's not biting her nails anymore. It's still on, he told me. Good, because I think I can make it this time. We had just a half day of school on Wednesday. On the bus ride home, we played Keep Away with Robbie's hat, and the sixth graders taught us a song about the girls in France. The bus driver yelled, "Shut up or I'll report you to the principal." Nobody paid any attention. When we got off the bus, me and Tracy stopped for the mail. Both of us had a packet of approvals from Winthrop. "Come over and we'll decide what to buy." As soon as I changed, "Don't forget your album." "How could I?" Tracy asked. Kenny met me at the front door. "Did you know the longest earthworm in the world measures 21 feet when fully extended?" "I'm really glad to hear that," I said. His mother must be proud.
She's like that big?
I know, that's the end of the book.